Before we begin the sketch, I'd like to give a big shout out to my Patreon supporters. So a big thank you to Hixia, Sparky, Beer Nuts, Trep, Eski, and Anathiel. Thank you so much.
NANI?!
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
What's up gamers, it's TreesapJake here with yet another video, and today's video is going to be taking a look at the 9.1 patch notes that we've gotten from the PTR, and there are quite a lot of different changes in here, some quite radical, some quite experimental by Blizzard, and I love to see it, to be honest. I love to see them going for something crazy. However, some of them I think are a little bit questionable, and some of the things that we'll be taking a look at are going to be a bit strange, I think, but hopefully we can go through them, digest them, and see what it's going to be like going into 9.1, at least with these first little patch notes. So just an FYI, they will probably be coming out with more. This is just the initial look. So there's, to summarize, there's quite a few changes to mages, warlocks, druids get a little look, and there's some new PvP talents that we're going to be digesting. Now, unfortunately, on the Wowhead site, they don't actually show you the details of these new PvP talents or anything, but thankfully, I've got buddies that are in the PTR, and they've managed to screenshot some of the cooldowns. So I'm going to be screenshot some of the actual text, so you can have a little read of that, and I'll read them out as well, so hopefully we can go through them and talk about it. So starting off, we're going to be taking a look at what they've made changes for with balance, and obviously a lot of this is PvE based, but PvE does sadly affect PvP, so let's take a look. So New Moon talent is now a 20-second recharge, was 25. Not many people were using New Moon. Will this make a change? I don't think so. I don't think people will take this. I personally think that Solstice was too good. I think it will still be really good. Maybe they might have a try of it in Arena. I can see that maybe being something that people will try. It could be insane, but I think the fact that, even with the Solstice nerf now going down to 200%, I think, in all honesty, I definitely think that people will still be going for the AoE. Just the passive damage is a little bit too strong. For PvE, obviously, this is quite big ramifications. I won't really go into it because I'm not massively into PvE, but I think there will be some shift away from balanced druids in maybe raids and in Mythic Plus. Stellar Drift being redesigned, so increasing the damage by 25% and allows you to cast while moving, but has a 15-second cooldown. I heard that Super T's mentioned this was an old style of balanced druid, talent-wise, so I think that'll be something that maybe they'll take. This will definitely see a lot of use in RPGs. I think a lot more people will be playing this in RPGs. I think it was taken in RPGs anyway, but now that it's on this cooldown, you can prioritize maybe getting some Star Surges off and then into a Stellar Drift to try and get some pressure out. I know it will probably rot that down. Going to be talking about Warlocks as well later, so we'll see some synergy there still, I think. So I don't think this nerfs balanced druids in going into rated battlegrounds. I still think they'll be really strong because there's no changes to Star Surge or anything like that. And then obviously you've got the rune carving power, the legendary power here that's not affected by this cooldown, so maybe there's something there, but I don't think so. Balance of all things being nerfed is quite big. I think this means more consistent critical strikes, but not quite as high, so it means maybe less big Star Surges critting you twice in a row, which is good news for everyone else that isn't balanced druids. Will it still be viable? I have no idea. I think probably people will still take it, but there probably are some other stuff. Maybe they'll go for the Star Surge legendary now. Maybe there'll be something else that will go for that in 9.1. Maybe they'll check out this Starfall legendary going into rated battlegrounds. That could be quite interesting to see. They've still got the big damage coming out, but no cooldown. Could be insane. Onto the meat of the issue with fire mages. So a lot of this is a PvE nerf. I think Flame Strike and Flame Patch being damaged, with their reduction means that Mythic Plus they won't be as strong anymore. So, sorry for fire mages that were doing really well in Mythic Plus. I think that's going to be done. Kindling change with the reduction to combustion is now reduced to 1 second as opposed to 1.5. That's pretty big for fire mages in PvP. It means that their combustion has they're not going to get that back. So once they've used it, it's going to be longer to get that back. Positive change for dealing with that. It was quite tough to deal with sort of shorter combustion times. I don't think it really gets into the meat of the problem, which is the fact that combustion hits so damn hard, and there's a lot of, I suppose, consistent damage problems with fire mage as well. Like they don't do anything outside of combustion, sort of one-trick pony-esque, and it's kind of, that's quite annoying to play. I'd like to see more consistent damage go back to fire mage, and then maybe sort of like lessen the impact of combustion. Again, Infernal Cascade being reduced here is actually quite big. That means again some further reduction to how much damage that combustion puts out. I think this is quite big. I don't think it's enough though. I really don't think it's enough to make them sort of like good, but in all honesty, there's a few extra changes in PvP that are going to make Fire Mages even worse, and I'm actually quite looking forward to seeing possibly the return of Frost Mage. The changes to Priest here I know are PvE based completely and totally. Spirit Shell was something that they took a lot and were reliant on. I've listened to so many of my PvE friends talk about this being a big thing, so will this mean that people will move away from Discipline? Maybe. Symbol of Hope being redesigned, bolster the morale of party or raid members within 40 yards. They each recover 60 seconds of cooldown on a major defensive ability, and they regain 12% of their missing mana over 5 seconds. This is kind of crazy, ridiculous actually. Will this make Holy really good in PvP? Possibly. This actually could be game changing. This could make a lot of things be great. I can imagine this now. That how Symbol of Hope works with, let's say, Elemental Shaman. You know, you've got 60 seconds, you've used your wall, you've used your Earth Ellie. This could mean a lot of that coming back in. This could be actually a big change and make Elemental Shaman and Holy Priest a really big twos comp. Could be quite strong, especially if, you know, you're getting that Earth Ellie back sort of sooner than you anticipated, and your wall back sooner than anticipated. That could be insane. So we'll kind of have a look at that and see how things progress, especially if they're going to put any Shaman nerfs out there. Shadow, I think it's just a nerf to Void Bolt. I don't really play Shadow that much, so I don't know what the how effective this is, but again, it's just another nerf to Shadow. This rogue change here is important. I don't think it's as big as it might be kind of like seen as. It's now 50% larger. They get a bigger shield and it lasts for 4 seconds. I presume that this means that it's going to drop off after 4 seconds and no longer decays when they're out of stealth. So they just get a big shield that's out there. So if you've got a flame shock on them, they may get back into stealth. The flame shock will still tick, and then 4 seconds later they'll come back out again, but they've still got the shield. Possibly. I mean, who knows really, because even with shields on, it means that they can't actually sort of come out of stealth from dots, which is kind of sucky, but you can AoE them out, which is quite nice. So there's not indefinitely a number of, you know, sort of, there's no indefinite amount of shield coming over them. So even if you AoE them out, they might get out in that way. But again, it's tough. Like, I think this will only really affect people like Rep Paladins, or maybe sort of big AoE from Fire Mages or Frost Mages, where they're constantly getting them out and these guys are just kind of escaping that. I still don't think it fixes the problem. I think rogues having a shield that kind of means that they can stealth in your face is kind of sucky. It's not good. I don't think it's good. It really sort of like makes it very easy to come back from mistakes. You just run around the corner even if you've got full dots on you. There's no outplay potential. You're not sort of, there's no high risk. I think this it's kind of sucky, admittedly. I'd like to see this sort of drop off after 4 seconds and just completely drop away. I don't mind if it gives them 4 seconds for someone to dispel them, or, you know, for them to dispel themselves, or find a way to get through that, but I think this kind of sucks. So, I mean, it's a good change in the right direction, but I don't think it's what they need. So, moving on to Warlocks, there's a lot of changes here, and in the PV side of things, Dark Pact, Talent Absorbs Shield, this could be good against burst damage. I don't think it would be used for anything else. I think having a big shield is quite good, especially with some of the changes that are upcoming with how Sacrilege works. Destro Lock getting a 10% buff to Chaos Bolts. They are already hitting hard. I don't know why they keep buffing Destro. It's such a powerful spec. I mean, at some point, I bet you in 9.1, I bet you just, like, you know, clip this video. We're not on Twitch or anything, but I bet you they're going to start one-tapping people at one point in 9.1. I 100% guarantee they're just going to one-bang people, and it's going to happen, and then they're going to have to nerf it again. But they already hit quite hard. I think this is just to make them a bit more viable in PvE. I don't know. Affliction Warlock are just getting decimated. They've been just they've just been ripped into the entire time. Malefic Rupture getting damage reduced by 18% is not nice. Agony increase is good. I mean, that's more dots, I guess. Shadow Embrace now lasts 16 seconds with 12 seconds. I mean, again, sort of buffs to dot. Focus Malignancy, I don't know what the Conduit does, but it's just, you know, dot buffs in general. Sacrilege getting redesigned now. From what I can tell, this redesign is obviously the Corruption Slow being removed. This is really great for anything that isn't a Warlock or doesn't queue with a Warlock, like, you know, LSD with an Affliction Warlock could be in the bin now. But the big thing is the increase in damage of dots, which for me personally means that in rated battlegrounds, these guys are going to pump. This means that the corruption damage, everything, if they get a UA up on something, it's going to just get absolutely destroyed. The dot damage is going to be huge, which is quite scary and quite good for if you're playing a Warlock going into RPGs. In threes, though, this could be really difficult. This could be you're losing the ability to slow. I think sort of having a slow on your team, like a Warrior, for example, or a DK, would be more important because they'll be able to keep those slows up. But I just want to take a look at what this new ability does. So the new wording from this, as you'll see on the screen, is that corruption damage is increased by 25%. That was already the case. And each time it deals damage, any of the curse actives on the target are extended by 1.7 seconds. So it means that your dots are going to last way longer. They're going to stay on there. They're going to keep doing damage. There's not much that can dispel the corruption anyway apart from a healer. So if you're in a 1v1 situation or in a general thing without any general 2s or 3s where they can't dispel because of UA and everything like that, this is just going to keep ramping and ramping, and the UA is going to stay on there for a little bit longer. This could be insane in terms of how much pressure it puts out. Moving swiftly on to the Covenants. New Covenant campaign chapters, great. 14 new renown levels. I mean, I'm not excited for this. I don't think having to do 80 levels is going to be any fun, so they better make sure that when you swap, you start at renown 40, because that would suck otherwise. Blizzard, please don't make us grind 80 levels. You'll just lose people, 100%. I mean, we've already lost quite a lot of people, but nobody's going to want to do that. New rows, so that means we're going to have 1 potency, 1 endurance, and 1 finesse extra, which would be cool. So new traits, some extra, and then one big trait. So that could be quite cool. I'm excited to see what it is. Some few changes to Kyrian. Sort of reduces the duration of stunning capacity effects by 20%. So that was 30%. That's a nerf to that one. And then the cooldown to use Sparkling Drift Globe Core is moved to 1 minute, and now triggers at 30% health, was 35%. I'm fairly sure this is the stun that they get randomly. So this could be good. Means that they're sort of slightly lower when it goes down when you get stunned, so that's quite nice. Sulfuric Emission, fear duration reduced to 3.5 seconds, was 4.5, so that's again a nerf to Emily. Venthyr, Familiar Predicaments, now reduces the incoming interruption by 20%, it was 25%, that's a nerf to that as well, so it means that, which is good news for Shamans, because we used to kick Shadow, and it used to last for like, what, 2 seconds, really wasn't much, so, I mean, slightly more time on the kick, which is good, only positives for us. New dungeons, new raids. There's a new, obviously, Imperial Ordnance trinket put on the other unused trinkets of 40-second cooldown when used, when it was 20 seconds. So this was the big mastery trinket that a lot of the boomkins were using, all PvE changes. Now we get into the meat of the issue. This is the PvP changes. Now, first of all, you know I love DKs. I haven't been playing it so much this season, but I played a lot of classes to kind of get an idea of them. Heartstop Aura being removed. Now, a lot of people are very happy with this, and I think, in all honesty, putting extra things on cooldown, this is great for me. It means a lot of my cooldowns are no longer going to be ridiculously long queuing into DKs, which is a positive. However, what we do have is Shroud of Winter. Now, if you don't know what Shroud of Winter is, I'm going to bring that up for you in a second. Essentially, enemies within 8 yards of you become shrouded in winter, reducing the range of their spells and abilities by 30%. This is kind of weird. This is a very weird ability to have. To replace Heartstop Aura with something that, instead of reduces the cooldown, increases the cooldown of spells and abilities, reduces their range. So, for example, if you are trying to polymorph something and they're a bit far away, you can outrange that. This could be quite interesting. I don't know how this would play out in practice, but this would definitely affect some people trying to hex or kick. This would definitely affect kicks. Actually, kicks for us would be kind of nuts. We don't have the biggest range, but it means that we'd no longer be able to sort of like kick things that we normally kick. This could be quite interesting, or hex or whatever. And I don't know how I know the range is sort of 8 yards, so we've got to stay in, but this is really good, I suppose, as a sort of like support talent. Will it be good to take? I don't know. I don't really know. I'm sure there's some other things, bits and pieces that we can take as a Death Knight, maybe some other different PvP talents now instead of Heartstop Aura, but, you know, maybe we've already got, you know, Necrotic Aura and the other, and I think that will still be present, but there's some other ones that you could probably take maybe to kind of help out now that Heartstop Aura is gone. I don't know. We'll see. In reality, I'd love to see Unholy DK get buffed again in PvP. It kind of sucks so bad in PvP at the minute. I mean, DKs aren't ridiculously OP. They're strong. They've got such disruption, but they don't have, you know, staying power that they used to have. This is probably the biggest change. Kleptomania PvP is now arcane only. This means that fire mages, frost mages do not have the ability to just take absolutely everything. That is just an arcane mage thing. That's really good. That's really good. So you can only do that in Arcane. Arcane got a bit more survivability. Dampened Magic is gone as well. So there's lots of good changes that kind of big nerfs to mages and try to make them a bit more sort of around there. So anyway, going into Arcane, the new PvP talent, Arcanosphere. Now I can read that out for you. Arcanosphere is a 45-second cooldown, builds a sphere of arcane energy, gaining power over 4 seconds. Upon release, the sphere passes through any barriers, knocking enemies back and dealing up to 2,414 arcane damage. This could be a good way of survivability, but would you take it instead of anything else? I don't know, because I don't play mage, but it's an interesting one to know about because you could see this being taken, and normally new abilities, new PvP talents, they want you to take, so they are normally quite strong. Goes through any barrier. You can take that as a bubble. You can take that as bop. You can take that as parry. Anything that kind of might stop people from doing Cloak of Shadows potentially. It might just pass through them and knock them back. This could be a really good way of preemptively stopping goes. If you get kidney shot, for example, from a rogue, unless it's obviously unless it's a straight line or whatever, but it might just go through, might just go out from you, whatever. Nobody knows. I mean, I imagine Sphere is kind of circular, so it could just expand out. It could be a really cool way to bring that out. Arcane Blast now deals 20% more damage in PvP combat. Is the Arcane coming back? Is Arcane Dream a thing? Will Mitch Jones be happy? Who knows? Find out in 9.1, but this is quality. This is an interesting change to balance the other specs. With Fire, they've got a new PvP talent called Ring of Fire, and I think, you know, as unlike the very popular drinking game that it is, Ring of Fire actually seems quite interesting. If I read out what exactly it does, Ring of Fire, 30-second cooldown, 1.7-second cast. Summons a Ring of Fire for 8 seconds at the target location. Enemies entering the ring burn for 24% of their total health over 6 seconds. Now, I'm curious whether or not, if you go in and out of that, do you continue to burn? If so, there is a possible chance that Fire Mage Holy Priest could be insane. If this stays in, they could put it on top of someone after doing a Ring of Frost. They could do Ring of Fire on top of them, and then put them back in there again after the burn has happened, reduce it, kind of keep them doing that, and then pop Combustion. It could be insane, actually, damage. It's kind of ridiculous possibility. 24% health with a greater pyro on top of that. G-Pie straight into Ring of Fire or something like that whilst the cast is going. I mean, that could be kind of insane. Either way, I think that there are possible ways for Fire to be really, really good. I like the idea of this talent. I think this could be interesting, but there's lots of, you know, experimentation that needs to be done. Control Burn PvP talents have been redesigned. Ignite deals 100% more damage while Combustion is not active. I mean, Ignite never did massive damage in PvP anyway. This is Dot. I don't know. I don't like this one. I don't think this is anything decent, but it's just a new design, I guess, of Control Burn. Wild and Flames PvP talent now causes Flame Strike to reduce the cast time of Flame Strike by 50%, was 1.25 seconds, and increases its damage by 30% for 3 seconds, was 20% permanently. I don't know how I feel about this. I feel like this was just a really great way of getting people out of stealth, but maybe with the change to rogues, this would be more viable if you're going into an RMP mirror. Potentially, I don't know. I honestly think the biggest thing for me with Fire is the Ring of Fire talent. That seems like something that could be really cool. Now, take a look at Frost. Now, I am hoping that Frost comes back. I love Frost. I think Frost is a really fun mage spec. Is it fun to queue into in threes? No, it's not. And that's why I think it would be good to see it, because mages are going to be strong in that regard. And I think also I'd much rather queue into a Frost mage that basically dies. You know, if they forget block, they forget block. Or if we kick them on Frost and they can't do anything, they then die. Like I prefer that than having essentially to kill them twice. Through Cauterize. I think Cauterize, you know, as a cheat death was just really difficult, made them so hard to kill, especially as most mages played Fire. So having a look at this new PvP talent, Ice Wall. Now this is an interesting one. I'll read this out for you. Ice Wall, 1.3 second cast, 1.5 minute cooldown, so a longer cooldown than Firewall. Conjures an ice wall 30 yards long, that's quite long by the way, that obstructs line of sight. The wall has 40% of your maximum health and lasts up to 15 seconds. I don't know whether you'd take this as apart from any other PvP talent for Frost, but against double melee, this could be the difference between sort of just completely and totally either absolutely one-tapping someone if you're playing, I don't know, Affliction Warlock Frost Mage, or you're playing Frost Mage Warrior. You completely and totally line of sight their healer. You can trap them in certain places. I love the idea. I absolutely love the idea of this spell. This sounds so cool. 40% of your maximum health and lasts up 15 seconds. So it means that you can destroy it. 40% of your health. Let's say you got 40k HP. That's sort of like 18k. You could really smack it down. But the only people that could do that is probably the other melee. There's no way a healer's doing it. You could literally isolate a healer and absolutely one tap someone behind the ice wall. This is really cool, and it's a really great way potentially also to stop melee from coming at you. Lots of cool things you can do with this. I think this is I love the idea of this spell. I love the idea that you can experiment with it. So I'm really interested to see how Frost Mages do with that. Frostbolt now deals 100% more damage in PvP, was 15%. This is crazy. Viable hard casting Frostbolt. We'll see how much damage this is. I think this might be a little bit overtuned, but we'll see. It could actually do a lot more. Deep Shatter now increases the damage of Frostbolt by 75% on targets, was 150%. This makes sense. If they're going to buff its like consistent damage, then Shatter needs to be a little bit lower. That makes sense to me. Burst of Cold, PvP talent now increases the damage of Cold and Cold by 600%, was 400%. This is huge. I mean, this could be insane. You could go for Ice Wall, Deep Shatter, and Burst of Cold, and do some really big sort of damage combinations. I don't know whether there's anything else that you would take, or if you play Mage and please let me know down in the comments if there's something else you would take instead of this. I think Ice Wall is maybe more situational, but I think it could be insane as a way to totally block off a heal. You could stop someone's heal by line of sighting it with the Ice Wall. Unfortunately, there is a possibility of being kicked. 1.3 seconds is still a fairly quick but sort of kind of long cast time anyway, so we'll see how this goes. Overall, I'm really happy about potential Frost changes. I think this would be interesting. I hate the idea of it as a melee, if I play melee, but as a caster who may want to play with a Frost Mage or something like that, then this is interesting. Okay, so Mistweaver's has got some new PvP talents, and they've also had some redesigns of other PvP talents. Let's take a look at them. Peace Weaver. So Peace Weaver, it's a passive effect. Its revival's cooldown is reduced by 50% and provides immunity to magical damage and harmful effects for 2 seconds. So what does this mean? This means that it kind of gives you a sort of immunity for 2 seconds after you've used it, and reduces the cooldown of it by 50%. I don't know what the normal cooldown of it is. I'm fairly sure it's quite a long cooldown, maybe a 2-minute cooldown. This might make it a 1-minute cooldown, and it gives you an immunity. This is actually quite good. Will this help Mistweaver? I think so. I think this would make him a bit more viable. I don't know whether you take this though over something else, but I think with a lot of the redesigns of PvP talents, it might actually work quite well. The next one to take a look at is going to be one called Dematerialize. Dematerialize is another passive. Dematerialize into mists while stunned, reducing damage taken by 40%, reforming over 3 seconds. There's not a lot you could do when you're stunned as Mistweaver, and this could be life or death. This is kind of insane. Reforming over 33 seconds is... I don't understand. The difficulty about this is the wording of it. So you dematerialize while stun, reducing damage taken by 40%, reforming over 3 seconds. So I imagine that means that you have a 40% damage reduction over 3 seconds. So most 3-second stuns, you'll just have an instant full 40% damage reduction. So for example, on Stormbolts, that's the entire thing done. For the first 3 seconds of Kidney Shot, you'll be totally fine for 40% damage reduction. There's a lot you can do with that one. So that's a really good talent. It might make them a bit more viable going into stuff like that, but who knows really. We have to see more and have to see what other changes that come in from 9.1. I sadly don't have anything Thunderous Tea, so unfortunately I don't know what that might do, but let's take a look at the other bits here. Counteract Magic PvP talent has been redesigned. Each hostile magic effect removed from a target increases the healing they receive from you by 2% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 10 times. So I imagine every second it stacks up further and further, so they get more and more healing after it's been removed. This is a good thing. I imagine this is quite good, for against Affliction Warlocks and dot specs, maybe Shadow Priests, etc. like that. This could be really good as sort of dealing with dot specs, which is quite nice. Refreshing Breeze, the PvP talent has been redesigned. Healing done by Soothing Mist increases the healing of your next expert harm on the target during the channel and causes it to dispel 1 magic, poison, or disease effect. Again, this could be really, really insane going into dot specs, double dispel pretty much. I imagine this would be taken as a way to sort of handle wizard cleaves. I think this is quite good. Looking at this other one, Eminence has been redesigned. Transcendence Transfer can now be cast while stunned, and its cooldown is decreased by 15 seconds if it is cast while not stunned. That's kind of nuts. This could be really, really good with Dematerialize as a way to sort of just completely get out of things, or you might just swap those around. You might take Dematerialize if you know you'll never have your port near, or you swap to Eminence if you do have your port near, etc, etc. So there are lots of really cool PvP talents that kind of makes more Mistweavers viable. If you want to get more information on that, I would suggest that you go and check out some of the other Mistweaver streamers, see what they have to say, because I don't play it, so it'd be interesting to know what they think about this. And then Surging Mist PvP talent has been removed, so honestly, it seems like a good changes. Moving down to Priest, new improved Mass Dispel. I have seen a lot of comments on Twitter, especially from people like Hydra, a lot of other Priest players like Zenlin, where improved Mass Dispel is something that they're just never going to take. I mean, 15 seconds... and then Master Spell's cooldown is reduced to 15 seconds and its mana cost is reduced by 30%. I just think there's so many other PvP talents they'll take, and it seems like a lot of the other priests think this is another thing as well. I don't even think Shadow's going to take this. I mean, they could do. It might work really well into some of the paladins that are coming out. I don't know, really. Lasting Plague being removed as well is just sort of another nerf to Shadow Priests in general. Make of that as what you will. This is a change to Mark of the Master Assassin for rogues. This is duration has been reduced by 40% in PvP combat. I think this is the crit bonus that they have. Reducing that time is really, really good. This means that there'll be less massive increase. What we are going to be looking at is a different change PvP talent though for Assassination. This could make them really, really viable. Hemotoxin. Now, this is going to be very interesting, I think. Let's take a look at this now. Shiv also reduces the target's healing received by 40% for 9 seconds. This is nuts. 40%, right? 40%. It's not 50%, it's not sharpen, but that is nuts. And it lasts for 9 seconds. 9 seconds. I don't know what the cooldown on Shiv is. I'm fairly sure it's maybe 30 seconds. But every 30 seconds, you reduce the healing done by someone for 40%. It's a global to do it, but in a burst go, this is going to be nuts. Asa could be back. This is horrible. I hate this. I hate horrible news for me because I dislike when Asa is strong because the pressure is just nuts. But this could be crazy. This is a massive buff for maybe Disc Asa Rogue in 2s. I think this is RMP big buff, especially if they were playing with a really new improved either Arcane Mage doing some damage or the new Fire Mage doing still with Combustion or the big new Frost Mage. This could be kind of nuts, and I'm not looking forward to this. This will be really tough, and I think it will really affect Resto Druids personally because of the dot increase. The HOTS not really doing so much. Maybe with the fact that maybe even Nature's Swiftness, you kind of pump that into that and do nothing. I mean, it's the same with Sharpen, really. It's kind of something that's kind of nuts, and I don't think this is going to be fun to queue into, especially it makes RMP really just that much more horrible. Down to the Warlocks, we've got the new PvP talent Shadow Rift. It's a 1-minute cooldown and it's instant cast. Conjure a Shadow Rift within 10-yard radius at the target's location, lasting 2 seconds. Enter enemies within the zone. When it expires, are teleported to your demonic circle. I'm not sure how I feel about this. I don't think this is going to be much use. 2 seconds, lasting 2 seconds. Any enemies within the zone. Okay, well, maybe it's just moving them away from the demonic circle if you're really far away from the demonic circle. It could be a good way of doing it, but would you swap anything else out that you need from Affliction? I don't know, in general. I mean, well, this is just a new PvP talent for Warlocks in general, but I don't know whether you'd actually use this. Having a look at the Soul Shatter PvP talent has been removed. I'm not sure what that was, but again, more Affliction, it's just getting removed. Demonology new PvP talent, let's have a look at it. Fell Obelisk. Summon a Fell Obelisk with 5% of your maximum health, so not a lot. Empowers you and your minions within 40 yards, increasing attack speed by 20% and reducing the cast time of your spells by 20% for 20 seconds. This is quite good. This is a sort of, I guess, a buff of for D mode. This is quite nice. It's more of like it's a 45-second damage cooldown. You could probably easily kill it though. I imagine, it'll be like Banner. I think maybe 5% of your health. So a couple, maybe like 1 lava burst from us would be enough to deal with it. But who knows? We'll see what it's like. Following on with the buff to Fell Lord, now doing 200% of your caster's spell power per swing, was 5% of target's maximum health. I mean, I don't know whether this is a nerf, but this might just be in general just a big damage. Cooldown of the ability though has been increased to 2 minutes, so this is quite important. I think with Fell Obelisk, this could be actually really insane. You could like put it together. Maybe make it incredibly stronger. Again, if you be a little bit like Sky Fury, you have to put it in a nice place. But as long as that you're within 40 yards of it, which is quite a long range, this could be good. And Singe Magic PvP talent has been removed. So I don't know, buff to demo maybe. We'll see. We'll see what happens going forwards and whether or not it'll be enough. Destruction Warlock gets a new PvP talent called Bonds of Fel. It's a 1.4 second cast, 30 second cooldown. Encircle enemies with Bonds of Fel, ensnaring them by 50% for 6 seconds. If any target leaves the 8-yard radius, deals 1.6k fire damage split amongst all nearby enemies. I don't think this is a massive thing. I don't know how this scales with your spell power and how much damage that does, but it'll be interesting to see it as a potential new slow. Would you ever cast it though? I'm not entirely sure. I don't know whether this is actually useful, so I'm not really sure about this one. Chaos Bolt now deals 40% more damage in PvP combat, was 15%. 10% just general buff, now 40% more damage. They are gonna pump. I'm sorry, I know that Focus Chaos is being removed in the next line, but they are still going to pump really hard, and they can actually take something else that isn't focused chaos, so there's a potential chance for them to pump even harder with other abilities. I know that with the Conflag legendary they're doing really well, or they could take the actual the Chaos Bolt legendary. It's going to be kind of nuts, and I think it'll be quite scary. They could even go Venthyr, Warlock, just to do some extra damage, or we survive, or have a reduced cooldown on the kicks, which could be really nice. That 20%, no longer 25%, but 20%. Fifth less as opposed to a quarter. I don't know, this could be tough. I think that the rise of Destruction Warlocks is coming, and I'm quite scared for it. Obviously, there's some new rune carving abilities for Death Knights, Warriors, and etc. You may have seen the one that where Condemn increases the length of recklessness, stuff like that. Some of the existing powers have been updated, so you'll have to see more about that. And new zones, new everything, but obviously the main thing that we care about is the PvP. This is interesting, guys. This is the first round of PTR notes. I'm sure there's more to come. I'm sure we'll see more change. We'll see changes to Shaman, so obviously I'm going to talk about those. But a lot of these new changes means that it'll be up in the air on what we're going to be playing with next season in 9.1, what class is going to be good. I think nerfs the mage are quite big, buffs the warlock, Destrolock, sorry, in particular is going to be scary. But either way, guys, that's it. Let me know what your thoughts are down below, whether you think that this is going to be a good change going forward, whether this is just memes at this point, whether you think this is going to save the game or not, I don't know. Personally, I think that it's going to be really interesting going to 9.1, and I'm really excited to see how it's going to be going. But let me know down in the comments below. Please like and subscribe for more content like this. Please help the channel keep growing, guys. I know it's been a tough period for us, but I really appreciate all the support. Anything that you can give me is really helpful. And if you're feeling really generous, go support me on Patreon. Otherwise, I will catch you in the next video. All right, see ya.